Alright guys, welcome back to another Fortnite video, and in this one we're going to be having a ton of fun going over secret little changes that were added in the recent update put up yesterday, and also a few changes that were made a little bit before that, but basically they are changes that I think most of you probably missed, and they have to do with like the rocket that is going to be launched, secrets with that, different changes to like weapons in the game, and how some have been improved, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So yeah guys, going to be a ton of fun, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button down below. It always helps me out so much. Seeing the support on the videos encourages me to make more. And along with that, right now, comment your favorite item in the game. For me, it's probably the hunting rifle. That thing is just so satisfying to use, especially when you get a headshot from like super far away. You feel really good about it. But I'm curious to see what you guys have to say, and without further ado here, let's jump on into the video itself. Alright guys, but let's start it off with a big addition to the game. That's sort of a bug fix, sort of just, you know, like a quality of life thing, but it has to do with building itself. So no, it doesn't have to do with nerfing resources, but this is actually an improvement to the building system. Now, how exactly did they change the building system? Well, they altered it slightly so that when you're looking in certain directions, like especially if you're building ramps up and stuff like that, if you sort of looked outwards, a lot of the time the piece would show up as red and not actually connect to anything, and you'd have to look like downwards quite a bit to actually get it to connect. Well, apparently this has now been fixed, and as you can see, it does seem to be more snappy to like when you're looking outwards and there's nothing for it to connect to, it seems to more often than not actually move back to where you want it to be. This clip kind of shows it that it still does it a little bit if you look at certain angles, which is weird, but for the most part, if you're looking out like flat, it will put it like right next to you, right where you want it to be. So I don't know about you guys, but that is a super awesome change. I'm super happy with that one, and I'm glad they finally included it. But yeah guys, let's move on here to a very cool change that I'm personally very excited for, and I think you guys should know about in case you haven't heard about it. But this is a quick one, and actually two things, with the first of which being that Season 4 has been officially extended by 2 days. That's right guys, so if you're trying to grind to Omega level 80, you have 2 more days to get that done, which is huge. Like personally, I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it, but now since we have until the official date is July 12th at 4 a.m. Eastern time or 8 GMT, now we have 2 more days to get stuff done, especially get those, you know, week 10 challenges done. So I'm super happy with that. Now on top of that as well, if you guys haven't heard, we are also getting a double experience weekend starting I think today actually, June 29th at 4 a.m. Eastern time, and it ends on July 2nd at 3 a.m. Eastern time, which is a very long weekend, but I don't think that'll affect like your battle pass bonus, and also it doesn't appear to affect challenge XP. Not 100% sure, but keep that in mind, and if you need tips, be sure to check out my Omega level 80 guide on the channel. It helps out with that a ton. But after that, let's talk about sort of a small one, but I think something that you'll probably want to know about, and that is the buff to SMGs. That's right guys, these kind of got buffed in the past, but apparently they got even better buffs and might actually be weapons that you want to try out now. So how exactly did Epic Games change these or make them better? Well, this is exactly what they said, but starting out with the tactical SMG, you now have it removed the first shot accuracy, which is kind of, you know, actually a nerf, but then instead it's replaced with an increased base accuracy by 25% and lowered the sprinting accuracy penalty by 15%, and then for the last two you have lowered the ADS bonus by 10% and increased the damage by 2. So by far the biggest things there are the increased accuracy and the increased damage, especially considering that the tactical SMG itself kind of puts out a ton of damage and already was pretty accurate, but it's the fastest firing gun. Now each shot does plus 2 damage, which adds up super quick, and it's even more accurate than before, so I'm definitely going to have to try that out because that sounds really cool. But then along with that, you also have a buff to the silenced SMG, which people have been using and talking about lately, especially like Tifu. He's been saying how much he loves this weapon now, but the improvements to that are increase the base accuracy by 10% and then increased ADS accuracy bonus by 20%, which that is a pretty big one as well, and then also increase the damage by 2. So those are some significant changes right there. Whereas the tactical SMG is more accurate, sort of like when you're firing from the hip and not aiming down your sights, the silenced SMG on the other hand does get a better bonus for when you're aiming down sights and might be a little bit more accurate than an AR right now. Again, I have to test that, but along with the increased damage, this gun could be pretty useful, so I think you guys might want to try it out. But after that guys, let's talk about something that's pretty secret and funny, and basically that is the new secret detective's office. So you guys know a ton of stuff has been changing on the map lately. I mean, Dusty Divot has been becoming a jungle or something like that, and I actually do have a theory for that. We might have to talk about it in a separate video, but a lot of things have been changing on the map, including the rocket, but the detective's office is a funny little addition that you can find in Retail Row, and also along with this, there's also some leaked skins to go with this new location. But first of all, let's show you the location location. So as you can see, it is in Retail Row next to the grocery store. It says Detective Agency on the door, and then when you go inside of it, there's not a ton to see. But again, the fact that this is here is kind of the funny part. Now, there is also a picture on the wall that shows, I believe, Anarchy Acres. Now, it could also be Fatal Fields, but if it is Anarchy Acres, it actually connects with something about the rocket that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But along with that, I'm sure you guys have seen some of the new leaked skins, but there's basically some brand new detective skins, a new pickaxe, a new like glider based around this sort of detective type stuff. So I think this will have to do something with the story, whether or not they're investigating the visitor. People have been talking about like the Leviathan and stuff like that. So if you guys have ideas, leave them down below in the comments, but it is a pretty interesting thing. Now after that, guys, we have one quick little change, and it's actually super dope because it has to do with a skin I bought a while ago, and it's one of the rare skins in the game currently because it hasn't come back into the shop in a long time. So put your guesses down below in the comments if you know which skin I'm talking about here, because I am talking about the Battle Hound. That's right, guys, that intimidating, kind of scary skin to be honest, but it's one of my favorites. I think it's one of the coolest skins out there, but it recently got a brand new back bling. As you can see in the video here, I just logged on the other day and it gave me the back bling for this skin. And what's funny about that is that people have been asking for this, you know, cape on the back of him, if you can even call it that. Back before it was a back bling, people wanted that to be a back bling, so that's pretty much why it hasn't come back into the shop. At least that's the theory around it. I believe it's only been in the shop once, like since it came out like the very first time, and it would make sense that they didn't want to bring it back until this new back bling has been added. So that might mean that this could be coming into the shop very soon. I mean, there have been a ton of other skins leaked as well that are going to be coming very soon, and also actually the Ventura and the Venturian got like back bling cape as well. So if you guys have those skins, you got the extra back bling, so super cool there. But moving on to something that's kind of a buff and also a nerf at the same time, because it affects a lot of different weapons, but this is actually a pretty interesting thing you should know in case you get into a ton of build fights. This is good information to know. So basically this includes a couple of changes, and the first of which is that shotguns now do less damage to structures. That's right. So like the pump shotgun, usually you could like rush someone, and if they just put up a wall, you could pump through it and go straight through. But now the damage that the pump shotgun does to structures has been reduced by 50%, which is pretty significant. I mean, I haven't tested it quite yet, but I'm pretty sure that that wouldn't allow you to get through a wall most likely. Maybe if it's just being built, I'm pretty sure that would work, but you're not going to be like melting down structures with a pump anytime soon. Now on top of that, they also nerfed the other shotguns a little bit. The heavy shotgun and the tactical shotgun, they now do 25% less damage to these structures. So that's a little bit less. I don't know if you'd really notice it. I mean, again, we haven't tested it, but it's something to keep in mind when you're rushing with the shotgun out. You might not be able to break through people's walls as easily as you used to be able to. Alright guys, let's jump into it here with a big one. So this one kind of entails a couple of things, and some of these you might have already noticed, but basically it has to do with the rocket. So if you go into game and find the rocket in the villain lair, obviously it's been there since the beginning of season 4, but things have been changing with it. You know, at the start there wasn't really anything there was just the rocket itself and not much else. Then the villains started to move like hop rocks into the rocket layer, and then a few days ago they added this timer on the outside. Now this timer isn't the exact thing I want to talk about because I'm sure a lot of you know about it. Instead, let's talk about some things that were added to the timer. So the first thing is that the rocket is starting to make a sound at certain intervals, and real quick I'll play for you this sound that happens right here. But yeah guys, as you can see, that sort of alarm is kind of signifying that the rocket is about to launch. And if you've heard this in game, that's because this sound goes off every hour at the 30-minute mark of the hour. So like this one went off at 2:30 for me. I went into game, went there. But it is funny that it's going off at all of those times. So that means that the rocket is about ready to launch. Now again, that's not the only thing. If I did my calculations correct for this timer that is showing up, it seems to be that the rocket, or something will happen with the rocket on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Again, my calculations might be off, so you guys might have to correct me, or I'll update you guys down below in the pinned comment, but something will be for sure happening then. Now, what's actually kind of funny about this is that we might know what's happening. Thanks to the Fortnite player 7, I'm sure you guys know who that is, he actually found a piece of the rocket, and I'm not going to show the exact picture, but basically it was like the side thing of the rocket, and obviously if you know how rockets work, they sometimes fly up, then, you know, drop off parts of the rocket. I don't know exactly what they're called. I'm not a rocket scientist, but that's the piece that seems seem to come back onto the map. So it does seem like this rocket is going to fly out into space, and it might take a few more days to actually come back down and hit something. But either way, guys, I mean, that is a pretty interesting change that is going to be happening super soon. Now, speaking of big changes, let's move on to an absolutely massive one, or, you know, fairly small, depending on how you look at it. But this one is actually technically a bug fix. It's just sort of like one of those super annoying things that happened in the past that now finally got fixed, even though it's been in the game for months and took them this long, alright? So yeah, this fix has to do with when you try to get loot in water, like if you're in Loot Lake and you eliminate somebody and their loot drops below the water. In the past, you weren't able to see it. Well, with this brand new fix, now the water finally floats above the surface, so you can finally tell like actually what it is. You don't have to like look at the names and just like the slight glowing marks of it. Now you can finally know what you're picking up, and it took them long enough to fix this one. This is something that's been bugging me for so long, but hey, I'm glad they finally fixed it. If only they could come up with something to like find people when they're knocked down, like crawling underwater. Then again, that's kind of fair because you could use that to like protect yourself when you're knocked down, but you can't even like shoot through water, so I don't get why that's really a thing. But yeah, items now float. That's pretty dang awesome. Now after that, guys, we're kind of getting into like the funny random little changes, but I love those kinds of things, so if you guys love them as well, this one's right up your alley. So it actually has to do with the shopping carts. We don't get a ton of things added with shopping carts lately. Instead, we get them removed constantly. Seriously though, I do hope they're here to stay now, even though I saw a glitch with them like a couple of days ago. But yeah, there's actually technically two things. The first of which is the pretty obvious one, and that is that there is now a health bar around the shopping cart itself, which is pretty useful. You can tell just about how much health it has left, and it loses health like when you take big jumps, when it takes shots, when you hit it with your pickaxe. But now you can officially tell how much longer you can use it, which I mean is pretty neat. Now along with that, they did say that there is now a tracker that has been added for when you make huge jumps. It's supposed to show up in the elimination feed and show like your distance, height, and time in the air, I believe. Even though I tested this, or when I did test it, I think yesterday, it didn't really show that stuff. It did show how far I felt like when I actually, you know, died by using the shopping cart, but I didn't get the previous one, so maybe my jumps weren't technically big enough, even though they were pretty huge. But apparently that's something that's supposed to be in there, so it's kind of cool, kind of, you know, interesting. So I thought I might as well include it. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that button in the center, and along with that, you can check out some of my previous videos. Got a fun one on the left, a fun one on the right. Just click either one and it'll bring you straight there. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.